Hey, good morning to those of you out there on the East Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the. Oh, I do this so many times. And I just say good morning to the East Coast and good afternoon to the West Coast. Reverse that. Good morning to those of you out on the West Coast, all the way out in the Pacific, Hawaii. Hey, Russ. Good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast with me. For some reason, I left my windows closed, and so I don't see out there. I think it threw me off. I just want to welcome you to the training. I appreciate you showing up early and on time. I like sharing a tip for success to those who show up early and on time. And my tip today comes out of 7 Habits for Highly Effective People. This is my number one book, business book, personal book. It's the number one recommended book I have because it is such an instrumental part of me constantly trying to grow. I've been reading it since 97. I'm going through it and kind of rereading it again as I'm sharing tips with you. Anyways, today, 7 Habits for Highly Effective People. And I keep my little cheat sheet card here, but put first things first is habit number 3. And that's what I'm talking about this week. And I wanted to give you a tip for success around Stephen Covey describes in the book a time matrix and how you're managing your time. And you could be in quadrant 1, 2, 3, or 4. Quadrant 1 is urgent and not important. Or excuse me, urgent and important. Quadrant 2 is not urgent and important, right? So important is on top. Down below, 3 and 4, they're not important, but they're urgent and not urgent. And so we're trying to just completely get out of 3 and 4 and not play in that part of our life. For example, random emails or phone calls, you don't know who it's coming from. That's urgent and not important. It's quadrant 3. But the tip for you is quadrant 1. And it's something I'm doing myself. I want you to look into your quadrant 1 world and go, how many of these things can I begin to get rid of so I have less and less activity in quadrant 1, meaning things pop up and I got to take care of it because it's important. My example is I have GovCon in a Box. I'm a co-founder of GovCon in a Box, and it's a tool set. And one of the things I've noticed is that we get questions from people, and I see the same questions. And so I need to get in there. And so it's important when somebody asks, and it's urgent because it's urgent to you, right? But the tip is I'm going to go in there and look at the questions they're asking and try to put mini videos on our site. So, hey, before you ask a question, is it one of these 5 questions? And I can start getting rid of some of the activity in my quadrant 1, my important and urgent, by just doing something like putting up training videos that relate to the most common questions. So consider doing that yourself. Look into your day and go, what am I getting caught up spending time on that I could be focused on improving and getting out of my way? All right, let me just find my slides. We're going to dive into today's training around being known, liked, and trusted in 2025. One of my favorite lines out there is, and I hear people sometimes actually lately knocking it, but people buy from those they know, like, and trust. This is a truism in sales. It has been a truism for 100 years, hundreds of years. It's not something new that those of us alive have invented. This has been around for a long time. If people don't know you, they can't buy from you. If they don't like you, why would they ever buy from you? And certainly if I don't trust you, I'm not going to buy from you. And so that truism, people buy from those they know, like, and trust, is one that it's really important to believe, because when you believe it, you begin to ask yourself, what am I doing to make sure my customers know me, they like me, and they trust me? Those are skill sets that you can develop. A skill around getting more and more of your potential customers to know you. A skill set around getting more and more potential customers. In federal agencies, those are just people, right? Even though it seems like it's the Army or Department of Education or whatever, they're just people. Those people can like you, right? They drive a commute back and forth to the office. They got to mow the lawn or take the kids to a soccer game or go out drinking afterwards, whatever it is. They're just people, and they will like you, and they will trust you. And I'll talk about how that can happen in a second. But it's really important to just understand it's a skill. And if I'm not that good at that skill at the moment, that's okay. I can practice it. But the first step is you have to be willing to develop this skill. So first thing you do is develop the knowledge, and that's what I try to share with you. And then you develop the habit and the skill, and that's what gives you the experience in here. And when you do that, you're going to get people to know, like, and trust you. And that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to break it up into, probably can predict this, 3 different sections. How to get federal buyers to know you. I want to talk about this a little bit. How to get them to like you and how to get them to trust you. And then I'm going to go into LinkedIn, because this is one of the easiest places you can go to make this happen. outside of like a meeting. So that's what we're going to cover down on today. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonald. I am the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, co-founder of GovCon in a Box. I want to welcome you to my federal sales training, where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years in the federal market after I got out of the Army. And since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. When we follow a process A to Z, we have repeatable, predictable results. This is what I want for you. This is how you will have a successful business, is having repeatable, predictable processes. Okay, if you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to our Government Contracting Success newsletter. We put a lot of great content out there. If you are a subscriber, share the next episode with your friends. Tomorrow and Friday, I'm going to be at a defense summit, and this is a Defense Outlook Summit, so looking into the Defense Department and more broadly the federal agencies. And so I'll be down there moderating, but I'm going to go live from in there because there's a lot of good people. There's some CIOs and other people, but actually there's some small business liaison officers at large businesses. And probably what I'm going to do is try to grab them and do little mini interviews with them. So instead of a formal training like this, I'll be doing interviews and just go live with them. It's like, hey, don't eat lunch. Come talk to me. So that's tomorrow. If you haven't registered. It lets people know that these kind of events are out there and they become aware of it. If you don't know this, right, I'm going to try to teach you today about knowing, liking, and trusting. But that knowing part, right, I want more people to know of my training. And so you pushing the word out, you engaging, you registering and saying you're attending, that's things you can do to help me be known to other places. It's the similar thing you're going to want to do, right? And so it's really important we all help each other. We're a community. Before I get too far, I just wanted to congratulate. Let me go ahead and get rid of myself for 1 second. I wanted to congratulate the 100 Club companies. There are 360,000 plus companies selling to the federal government, and only 130 of them are in this 100 Club. That means they have a federal visibility score of 100 out of 100. So you can be 0 to 100. And these companies are in there. I want to congratulate Vinfinity's and JDP Search Group for joining the 100 Club. They just did that over the last 48 hours. I know John has been at this a lot from JDP, working really hard to get his score up. So congratulations to both of you and congratulations to the rest of the company. For everybody else, if you're not in the 100 Club, if you don't have a 100 Visibility Club, take 2 seconds and go into govconinabox.com. Find out what your score is, and then do the things that I recommend with videos in there about how you can do it so that you can reach the 100 score, so you can make sure you're maximizing your visibility. I was telling a story earlier this week in a training that one of the people who reached 100 score started getting contracting officers reaching out and asking for market research type information, the capability statement, or can we talk, whatever it is. But they got like 5. I don't mean that everybody's going to get that, but I guarantee you're not getting any if you're invisible to the buyer. That's why we do this. It's a free tool out there that you can find. So make sure you check your visibility score. All right, let me move on and we'll dive into talking about how to get federal buyers to know you. So there's this idea that I like to share is that the federal government and really any buyer does not buy from the best. They buy from the best of those who show up. And if you're not showing up, then how can they buy from you? This part about showing up, part of it could be you knocking on a door. We call that outbound sales, where you're knocking on a door, you're showing up at their door. But in the federal market, 99% of the federal buyers, you will not be able to knock on their door. There's just too many. There's 1 million plus buyers out there. Not all of them for your product, but it's a lot easier to have your buyers find you and knock on your door, and for you to show up that way than it is for you to knock on every door. And when you show up in a search that a federal buyer or market researcher does when they're looking for a company that does elevator services or SharePoint or cyber or talent acquisition, when they're looking for somebody like that and you show up in the results, well, you're showing up, right? You're being invited to the party. There's all sorts of things we talk about in the federal visibility score that you can do to improve your chances of getting on the short list. But the idea is to make sure you're showing up when they're looking for you. And I'm going to guide you through some tips on how to do that. Another way that you can show up is just responding. I think this is one of the key ones, right? Responding to sources sought notices or RFIs, these are in the market research phase of the government's acquisition life cycle. So there's this DMARC, and this DMARC is when the request for proposal or request for quote comes out. There's no more discussion, nothing else. They're just waiting for a response, right, at that point. But before that, and that's shifting left, no matter what my camera is showing you, that's shifting left. Before that is the market research phase of the acquisition life cycle. And there's some details in there about when that phase closes, but you want to shift left and get known earlier. One of the ways you can do that is respond to these sources sought or RFI notices where the government's trying to continue or flesh out their requirements and their acquisition approach. Basically, they're trying to get information from you. When you respond, they are becoming aware of you. They know you now. They've seen that your company does such and such. And if you write a good response, they're going to like you, right? And then as it gets to the RFP, that's another way for them to know you. When you send in responses, first off, no matter what anybody says, the government really does appreciate it. Sometimes they get too busy and they don't respond to your RFI response or something. Whatever, cut them slack. They got it. They know you sent it. If they're going to go look for more people, now you're on a short list because you're on a list of people who responded the last time instead of somebody who's upset that they didn't get a response back and I'm never going to write an RFI again or something, right? So respond to sources sought and RFI notices. Respond to RFPs when it's in your sweet spot, right? When you respond to these, you are going to get known by that agency out there. Another way that you can get known is to share what you know. This is really important. What is the point of you being an expert if nobody knows? What is the point of you having the very best process if nobody knows? One of the reasons I teach what I teach every single day is because I really want people to understand my 7-step process, right? This idea of going from research, targeting, outreach leads to relationships, opportunities, proposals, and sales. A 7-step process that I drive home this idea that government contracting is not a secret for special people with talents they were born with. No, it's a process. And it's a process that we can all learn and get good at. So share what you know. What are you trying to sell to the government? If you're trying to sell them, go back to my elevators for a second, because that's like such an interesting one for me. But how do I choose elevators, right? What's the difference between an Otis elevator and whoever else makes an elevator, right? Should I buy American or foreign elevators? I don't know what it is, but those buyers have to think that stuff through. And the way selling happens now is they do all that research on the internet. That's market research. That's understanding the requirements. If you can share what you know, that's really good. And let's say you share it out there and 80% of the people don't come back and buy from you. They're like, oh, great, thanks. I'll buy the elevator myself, for example. Yeah, but 20% are going to come back and go, hey, Neil just shared how to buy the best elevator. I like that. I'm going to buy from him. Or more likely, I like that. Come in and tell me more. Why should I, who else is using that, et cetera. And you can do this across the board on a lot of things. Top 10 tips to keep in mind when hiring new people. How to find the best chemical engineering engineers, kind of whatever it is, right? What's your business? What are you an expert at? Share it. Don't keep a single bit of it to yourself. And then the last one is engage on LinkedIn. And I'll show you that in a few minutes. But get out there and engage on LinkedIn. That is the #1 social media platform for professionals. Nothing is even remotely close, right? You don't go to TikTok because one day it's up, one day it's down, one day it's up again. By the way, if you don't know, it went down and then President Trump brought it back up and it's alive for the moment. But that's not a professional network. It's a good network, but it's not a professional network for federal buyers, et cetera. Same thing with Twitter, which is a lot more political and not to put a lot in there, but more sensational type conversations or something. It's certainly like too much fast interaction. YouTube is a really good platform, right? LinkedIn is a good one for engaging with people. YouTube is a good one to share it out there. But engage on LinkedIn is a great way to get federal buyers to know who you are. All right, so let's talk about if they know us, how do we get federal buyers to like us? And liking is a pretty easy thing because I'm not trying to get them to like me like I would a new friend or a new girlfriend or something. Not that I'm ever interested, right? But not that I'm playing in that world, right? Liking in a professional sense is just different, right? There's certain things that we're looking for. So one thing is I'll start to like you if you're engaging my content. By the way, not with AI. We all hate that. Every single one of us who gets AI generated comments or something, we see it and we hate it. We don't want to hurt your feelings, so we don't say anything, but we secretly hate it, which makes us do the opposite of like you, right? And it's really important to remember this. We need to engage with our federal buyers, our target buyers, in a way that's real. And in the beginning, it's totally okay to give a thumbs up. Sometimes federal buyers put stuff out there and they don't get that much engagement. So when they get engagement, they're like, oh, cool, I like it. Like I know who this John Smith person is. The second thing is you can provide feedback. So if they write an RFI, like I said, or a sources saw it, or if they put out a RFP and a requirements document early on, and they're asking for opinions and people's thoughts, engage. Say, hey, I was looking at this. You guys might want to consider this. Act as if they're paying you already on some of that engagement. And it can get them to, first off, like you, because we just appreciate people contributing. And the second thing is they'll like you for what they're seeing, right? They're like, oh, this is helpful, not just, generic stuff or something. Be open to discussions. And this is something else that's really important. It's like, if you're going to go in there, have open discussions rather than really tight, I just want to win an opportunity type discussions. I put it another way with Stephen Covey's habit number, 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. This idea that people will like you when they feel like you're trying to understand their position. And the government buyers, its challenges and goals, etc. There's this great line I like sharing is that people don't care what you know until they know that you care. People don't care what you know until they know that you care. And one of the ways that they can know that you care is if they see you seeking first to understand before you start talking all about your company, your products, your solutions, etc. Just trying to understand. And sometimes that is 2, 3, 4, 5 meetings where you're in there. Hey, I was looking at the strategic plan. I saw what you guys put out. Like you're trying to understand it long term. By the way, this stuff I'm talking about is not for immediate revenue needs. If you have immediate revenue needs, that's kind of a different approach. But here we're talking about building long-term relationships. Getting people to know, like, and trust you is a long game. It's not a short game. All right, so that's how to get federal buyers, some tips on how to get them to like you. And I'm going to go in and show in a second what that is. I did want to tell you about something. At the end of the year, I stopped doing one-on-one coaching or consulting. And so I won't do that anymore, but I've just got a lot of people who are interested in, well, how can I keep getting coaching without it taking up like 160 hours of my week type thing? And so we're starting a sales group coaching program. And the whole point of this is to help people in the business development and capture side, that identifying people to have relationships with and getting in and building those relationships, identifying opportunities and pursuing those opportunities. If that's something you're interested in, it is a paid program for sure. And only 20 companies are going to be in it. But if it's something you're interested in, just go to govconchamber.com/group and add yourself to the wait list there, and I'll get back to you. Okay, so the last one is how to get people to trust you, how to get federal buyers to trust you. It really comes down to knowing your stuff. I'm not going to trust you as a painter if you come in and I just feel like you're, floundering around, or if if there's you're talking about the paints, but there's no level of intelligence. And I'm using this example. When I sold my last house and we were getting it painted, this guy came in, he was like, yeah, no, see these two colors? They look like they're the same, but they're not. So what we want to do is make sure we get this color because it'll take less paint than that one if we had to replace it, kind of thing. And it was like, as he was talking, he was gaining my trust because I believe he knew what he was talking about. And people need to believe you know what you're talking about. I think for the most part, when you come in, you think that I know what I'm talking about. I talk about process. I talk about the government. The things I say build the trust with you that I know what I'm talking about. And then I reinforce it with what government buyers might be saying. I'm like, look here, Sally is saying this as well. And that's why I'm reinforcing this message. It's not even Neil's message. It's Sally's message. It's not even my message about elevators. It's Otis Elevator who builds them. This is the best braking system, whatever it is. So you need to help people believe you know what you're talking about. The second thing on how to get people to trust you is similar type thing, but they need to see you as a subject matter expert. There's this breadth across the board. One of the things that I do in government contracting is really focus on sales, business development, and capture. So business development is this idea of understanding an agency, building relationships within that agency and identifying opportunities you can pursue. That's business development, the way I describe it. And capture is one of those opportunities, pursuing it in such a way that I increase the chances of my company or your company winning it, right? Those two. There is other elements of the sales life cycle around government contracting. For example, proposal writing and pricing. I'm good at those, but I'm far better at those for what I do. Where the other ones, capture BD, I'm good at that across the board. But on proposal, I dabble and talk about it. But if I go to talk about it, I'm going to bring somebody else in and go, she, Juliet, is the expert. She is the SME. That way they don't see me trying to pretend like I'm the SME on proposals. Of course I can write proposals. I go to the whiteboard, but I am not Juliet. That's her expertise. And she's somebody actually who's on here. So maybe Juliet Fletcher, somebody will put her LinkedIn profile. But if you think about this, you've got her who's an expert on proposal side and me on the sales side, and we keep learning and helping each other. And this is where we come together. But I am clearly a SME on federal sales. What are you a subject matter expert at? Think about this right now. Are you a subject matter expert at anything? Or your company? Are you an expert? You want to make sure it is easy for people to see that. And the more niche down it is, the easier it is for them to see that. For example, cybersecurity, if you say GRC or risk management framework, that's where people can see that. And then the last part is you want them to see you as a trusted advisor. This one is awesome. This is when you're getting invited in. Hey, we're thinking about rolling out this requirement or this opportunity. We're even just discussing kind of this problem. Can we pick your brain for a minute? Sometimes they use you as a trusted advisor without ever engaging you personally. An example is people come into my training a lot and they hear me talking about the thing. They're like, oh, he's advising this. Okay, let me go do it. It's as if we just had a meeting, but all they were doing is like you were doing today. You're in my training. Well, think about what you can do to elevate yourself out of just a vendor status to a trusted advisor status. Before they talk to the entire industry through sam.gov to say, here is an RFP that's about to come out, you want to begin to build yourself to the state where they're like, let's ask what John thinks. Let's ask what Sally thinks about this. Let's get their advice. And just to put it in perspective, that's what the government does with Lockheed or Microsoft or Amazon Web Services, right? Is they turn to them and they talk to them. Sometimes the CIOs bring them in. We small businesses, we don't have name recognition. So we got to go in there with our subject matter expertise, begin to build that relationship, and then we'll be on this level where it's not name recognition of Microsoft, but it's name recognition of you and your company. All right, so I want to switch over really quickly into LinkedIn and just show you a couple of tips on, I got a few minutes, but I just want to show you a couple of tips on how to do know, liking, and trusting within LinkedIn. And so if I'm just sitting, let me just stay here for 1 second. This is our event that we're in, but let's just say I'm looking for a risk management framework. This is an example of something somebody might look for. And I'm just going to put WOSB, Women-Owned Small Business, just to see if there's anything there. I'm going to come right here and say, show me posts. And I don't know whose posts I'm going to be seeing. But right here, I can start seeing stuff. Now, this one here, I don't know. I don't want to presume like I know anybody here, but I start looking through and I start seeing who's posting out there. What's the content around risk management framework that's in here? So some of these guys, like this looks like it's an attorney. So it's really interesting how risk management framework came there. I wonder if I need a quotation. Let's just do this. So now when I come back, I get far less that comes in. It's the same company's posting, right? So let's just start there. I just searched risk management framework. And if you're an expert at that and you didn't come up, why not? Where is it? Let me do a different one here. So this one here, how do you begin to get yourself known in the government? Let's just say modernization. Hopefully that word will come up. Modernization. And what I'm looking for, if I'm lucky here, I can choose, actually, I made a mistake there. I want to choose posts. And what I'm trying to do is find some posts I can engage. And so here, I'm looking for companies. Mention author's company. This one's a little harder because I it's a hit or miss, until you get good at this. But actually, I like that nav war. Let's just start with that one really quick and see if I got results. If I do, I can stop there. Okay, so this is perfect. So here I'm looking at this person's Deputy National Competency Lead. But here's Jessica 1 month ago, scientist at the Naval Information Warfare Center, Pacific. So if I come in here, and I don't know what this article is, but the value proposition of enterprise knowledge graphs, what I would do to begin to get known, liked, and trust, right? It's a journey, so I'm not going to be able to do it all in 5 minutes. But just with Jessica as an example, I'm going to click on this. And the first thing I'm going to do, is come over here. Oh, she doesn't have any more, which is good. So here, so Mitch had an article. Okay, so she's sharing somebody else's article, which is interesting. And it's talking about LLMs, and I can't remember what that, I always forget what RAG stands for, but it's modern. Okay, so I'm in here. I can start looking at this. And here's the piece of advice I want to give you. Is first thing, start looking for content from federal buyers that is coming from people you want to connect with. So this one is retired from 18 years of service. That's cool. But what I'm really looking for is somebody who's actually in the government at the moment. So here, lead writer of NavWar. Let's see what they're doing. Oh, so this is perfect. Meet one of the Navy's model ship builders, right? I don't even know what that is, but if I was doing parts or if I'm doing some of these things and I want to connect, I can begin to get in here and engage with this person. And I want to look at it and figure out what are they doing that I can begin to engage. And so here, I don't know how to pronounce this person's name, which is one of the first things I would probably do if I'm going to keep going is I go find out how to pronounce their name. I'm not an expert at names, but here I can start reading and you see how much depth this person went into on their article. Don't use AI, but if you're an expert, you're trying to sell into the government, maybe you're doing the parts side like this guy is doing, maybe you have to do with models, maybe you're doing 3D printing. You can see that, and it looks like, it's funny, I can't tell if this is what their purpose is for it. And I can't do it all right now, but I would read this and then comment, right? And so it begins with, look right here. You see how this person took this time, a lot of time. You can tell it. They took a lot of time to write this article a month ago, and only 10 people have given it a thumbs up, and nobody has commented. Imagine how visible you would be to the federal buyer if you commented something real. Nothing like, oh, this is exceptional, or that's great, or something real, right? You dig into it and say, I really liked how you did something, or, the attention to detail. I don't know what it is. I would have to look through this to read it, right? But this is impressive. I'd be curious of where they use it. But then let me come back up. So that was, holy smokes, that was a year ago that they did it. Nobody commented. I might even reach out to talk with this person here or to learn more about Ben Wong, but now I have two people. But you can see it already. Imagine if you were Ben or is it my song? If you were one of these people and you saw somebody comment and they asked a legitimate question that was kind of driving this forward. Now imagine you've done that over weeks and weeks and you're building the relationship and you're doing it with many people. This is an example of how you can get them to know, like, and trust you is by diving into the content that's out there on LinkedIn. People are sharing what they're thinking. I've had CIOs from federal agencies tell me, I wish people would dig into my content. I talk about what I think. You don't need to ask me what I think to know what it is. When you come, you can ask me new questions. He still wants to meet with you, but people put stuff out there. And if you think about this, one simple tip is when you sit there and engage with their content, you start that process of them knowing you, of them liking you and trusting you. Okay, so here's what I want you to remember out of today. Only got 1 minute left, but really, it's very important that they have to know you. People have to know you in order to even begin to engage you, let alone buy from you, right? But they have to know you, then they'll like you in order to start trusting you. If I just use that one article I did on LinkedIn a second ago, they'll know me when I give it a thumbs up, and especially when I do a comment. They will start immediately liking me because there is no other comment. So if I put a legitimate comment, like there's somebody I want to eventually meet, discuss the Navy's needs, they will like me. Just soft like on LinkedIn. It's like, oh, thank God my article got read, right? And then they will begin to trust me because I will ask them intelligent questions that lead to an intelligent discussion around their needs and my solutions. All right, a lot of stuff. Got to wrap it up. It's 12:30. Hopefully you found it valuable. If you did, throw a thanks in the chat. Don't forget to follow tomorrow. I'm going to try to go live from that event, be able to share different people's perspectives from the defense contract forum out there. And the last thing is make sure you check your visibility score. I want to get everybody up to 100, so at least you're visible to federal buyers. I will see you in the next trading.